Well, Josh, we appreciate you being here on the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. And for those out there who may not know who you are or haven't heard about you yet, give them a little introduction to you.
It almost hurts my feelings. I'm kidding.
I'm not. There's only one or two of those people, but when
it's all good. I wouldn't expect anybody to know who I am. My name is Josh Spots. I'm the CEO of Mac Haik Automotive Group. We are a 16 store group. We're mostly in Texas. We're also in Mississippi, but we have a lot of larger volume stores. So even though we don't have a ton of stores, we're a pretty large group. I think we're maybe top 25 in the country. We sell 50,000 cars a year.
Wow. All right. That is large. That's for sure. But everything's bigger in Texas, right? So that's the way you have to be down there.
Yeah. So are our bills. So are the property tax. My rent. I mean, it all coincides.
Yeah, absolutely. It all works together. So let's talk a little bit about how you wound up in this position, right? It's automotive is one of those great industries where you can come from somebody who has no education. I worked at a 6-store group at one point where I was the service manager, and the owner of the group had been a former technician at one of the stores. It's a very upwardly mobile industry. So what's your story? Where did you come from?
Well, I mean, like a lot of people in the car business, I ended up in the business because I needed a job, and I started on my 18th birthday, and literally on the day, I sold cars for a little bit, and I kind of figured out pretty fast that I really liked it. Like most people, you transition to most of us come from the variable side. I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. Mm-hmm. Sold cars, did finance. I became a finance manager when I was really young. I was 19, and sales manager when I was 20. And then I kind of just, started working my way through there. I was a sales manager for a long time. Used car manager, used car director, new car manager, new car director, eventually a GSM, then became a GM for Mac Haik in 2017, January. And I was a GM only for about 5 years. And then I was a GM of Mac Haik Chevrolet in Houston, Texas, really big store. Mac Haik is Chevy is top 5 in the country volume Chevrolet store, top 3 in the country for certified pre-owned volume, and one of the biggest dealerships in the country. And we grew that thing. We did a lot of really cool stuff. I remember when I started, we sold about 350 cars a month, and at the peak of our powers, we were doing between 800-900. We've sold over 1,000 in a month 3 times, and really big store. I became a platform manager, general manager for Mac Haik in 2022, and slowly kept picking up stores until I got to 10, and then I kind of went crazy, and I was like, "This is too much." And I went to my boss. It's funny. My boss, the previous CEO of Mac Haik's Terry. Terry's amazing, and Terry built this company from beginning to now. And he, along with Mac Haik, of course, but Terry, I went to Terry and I said, "Hey man, I can't be a full-time GM and do 10 stores. Like, it's too much. It's like, it's giving me and he's like, "Well, what's wrong?" And I'm like, "Dude, I can't sleep. It's like, there's too much going on." And he said, "Well, do me a favor, hang in there." He said, "I'm going to retire." And I said, "When?" He said, "In 2 years." And he actually retired in 90 days.
Oh, wow.
And so I was always supposed to be, the guy, at least according to him,
Mm-hmm.
he kind of followed through his word. And, he helped me along to the end. And I mean, and even now, he tells me all the time, he's like, man, if you need me, you call me.
Yeah. It's amazing when you find that mentor in your life that can help you along and show you the path and give you the tools that you do need to succeed at that next level.
Yeah, and it's the neat thing about it is I think that I always tell people as you're coming up in the business, it don't matter what your position is, you look at your boss, whoever's over you at the moment, and you're like, I can do that job, right? Until you have it.
Yeah.
And then when you get it, you're like, man, this is kind of harder than I thought, right? And
Sure.
that's, I'm gonna get that gig, I'm gonna get that gig. And then one day Terry sends an email and says he's retiring, and I get the gig, and man, I'm like 90 days in, and I'm like, man, this is way harder than I thought, So it's been a learning experience for sure. That was a year ago, just to put it in perspective.
Okay, so this isn't ancient history we're talking. This is still pretty a fresh wound.
Yeah, pretty fresh deal. And I tell people, it always takes you, it takes you a little time to get, we'll call it comfortable, and then it takes you a little bit more time to get confident, but eventually you become courageous, and that's what we're hoping to get to.
Well, that's awesome. And so obviously your history is in the variable side, but you are well versed in the fixed operations side of the business. And I know Jeremy Stevens and I talked to you on Mobile Service Monday, and you guys are chasing Bozard to be the largest mobile service provider in the country. And I think you're well on the way to that. And so two big subjects in automotive recently are AI and mobile service. So let's talk about mobile service first. What's the attack of the group on mobile service?
Well, we went to Bozard originally. I knew Ed Roberts. I read an article, and it talked about how many mobile service units that he had.
Mm-hmm.
To say we're chasing him on mobile service is probably an insult to Ed and Bozard. I wouldn't want to do that. I say that because when we went there, I think the biggest thing that really caught me by surprise, and maybe this will throw us both off, but it wasn't the mobile service that really got me. Don't get me wrong. The mobile service, the intricacies and the how deep they've really taken it was overly impressive, right?
Yeah.
But it was everything. And I think that the biggest thing that I got from Ed and from Bozard was that even though I had an understanding of fixed operations, obviously to be a GM and run multiple dealerships, you have to pick up some sort of understanding of it. But I think the biggest difference that I got is that it wasn't that different. And what I mean by that is that as we all kind of come up in the business, especially from the variable side, you transition into, that GM leadership type role or whatever it is, you don't have the confidence in the fixed op side because in your mind, it is such a different world.
Right.
But what I got from them is it really isn't a different world. It's still sales and it's still people. And because I thought it was such a different world and they opened my eyes to it actually being a pretty similar world, what I did then was I started coming back to the stores and coming back to the GMs, and I started basically taking everything in sales that I know and correlating it back to fixed operations. And what I've learned is that there's a whole world of opportunity, and we haven't even began.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even mean a little bit to tap into what's possible.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. And I will tell you what I'm always struck by when I go there is the how much every single person there is bought into the Bozard way of doing things. I picked up a Bronco from there. I'm from Massachusetts, but Ed had an opportunity for me to get a Bronco when they were largely not available, and I went down with my son to pick it up, and we stayed over the night before. I went to the dealership at 7:15 a.m. and out in front of the dealership is 3/4 of the sales staff at 7:15 a.m. And I said to Ed, I'm like, why aren't you? I thought it was service people. I'm like, why aren't they in there taking care of customers? He's like, that's sales. He's like, that's all the salespeople. And they were out just hanging out. A couple of them were kicking a hacky sack around and just hanging out at 7:15 a.m. And that was what struck me. I was like, that's different. Like a lot of times it's, we open at 9 and they're dredging in there at 8:59, right? And also I don't think they would take it as an insult that you're chasing them on mobile service. I think Jeremy likes that. I think Jeremy likes that competition. Keep them going.
Yeah, what I mean by insult chasing them is that we really learned that, like I said, we were just inferior in so many ways. And even though we have really big dealerships and really big operations, and some that aren't, from a total gross perspective, very far behind them, but it was just the totality of things where I'm not going to say we took some things that we learned from them on the mobile service side, and we picked 2 or 3 places to start trying to pilot certain pieces of it. But like I said, that is a very small piece of what we got from them. It was just the like I said, the thinking outside the box and just stop thinking fixed operations is something different. It's not. It's people.
Yeah.
It's just
it's people, process, and sales, right? It's the same on that side of the house as it is on this side of the house. And I think you're right. For a long time, probably not. It's probably still continuing, right? That we look at that divide between the two departments, and there's really not that divide. If we could take some time to understand what each other does, we would see more of that sameness.
Yeah, and I'd even told Ed as we were walking around and we were looking at different processes and different things, and the conversation that kept coming up was just, hey, this is a really unorthodox way of doing things. And it was like, why did you do it that way? And why did you do this? And I think that the big thing that I got out of it is that, just like so many things we experience in business, is that we have the way that we've always done it. And sometimes we just never get out of that lane. And like, I'll give you a mobile service example, right? One of the big things that they do that's unique and different than most dealers that I know and talk to. So most dealers, I'm not going to say all, but most dealers, when the whole mobile service thing first started, the first thing is they're like, we're not doing oil changes. And why not? I don't want to spill oil in someone's driveway. There's no money in it. I can't make any money doing that. And I'm not going to say that Bozard said don't make money. They didn't say that. But what he did say is that, if you really think about mobile service for the way that it's intended to be, is the profit in it, not that there isn't profit in it, but the profit in it is supposed to be in emptying those bays so you can take larger jobs, larger opportunities, and also provide yourself, especially if you're crunched for space, an extension of your bays by operating, out into someone's driveway, parking garage, or work. That was the first big one. The second big one, and this one kind of blew me back too, was that they used mobile service as a way to build their fleet sales operation.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you went to a company and you're like, hey, I'm going to start doing fleet sales, can I get your card? Can I get your business? Can I meet you? Can I know you? Whatever. They're like, no thanks.
Yep.
But when they go in and just say, hey, we service cars anywhere, however, wherever you are, we come to you, and they start servicing those guys' cars. And then eventually those guys are like, hey, do you guys sell cars too? And they've used it in reverse. And now they've built up this big mega fleet department that sells hundreds of cars a month, sometimes more than their retail operation sells.
Yep.
And it was all, and I'm not, maybe not all, that's probably not a fair assessment, but a large portion of their business was created from servicing those fleet customers where they are and providing something that those customers couldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah, that is definitely a reframe that is super valuable for anybody out there that's thinking about mobile service, because I think as a lot of dealers, and the perception is starting to shift, but a lot of dealers are looking at mobile service from that standpoint of, well, the OEM wants me to do it just so we can get more recalls done. Or we're gonna do some oil changes, and we lose money in the dealership doing oil changes. We're gonna really lose it after we buy a van and send a tech out there to do it. And if they switch that perception to being meeting the customer where they are, and the ancillary business that comes back to the dealership that doesn't show up actually on the financial sheet anywhere as this came from mobile service, right? Those fleet sales, they may get attributed internally, but nowhere does it actually say these came from mobile service. And so that ancillary business that you gain turns out to be worth much more than your mobile service operation itself, even though the mobile service is what's driving that extra business. And that's a reframe that we could all use to get away from that. What you said, doing it all, this is just the way we've always done it, right? And so we have to continue doing it that way.
Agree, 100%.
Yeah. And so let's switch gears a little bit to the other big subject, which is AI. And lots of promise for AI. Maybe some dreams of what AI is going to do. What are you guys looking at using AI for in the operation?
Really, I mean, all kinds of things. To your point, I, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it really pan out yet.
Mm-hmm.
When I say that, you know, I haven't seen it pan out, is, we've tried a lot of different angles. So let's kind of marry a couple things together, right? So one of the things that kind of blew me back when I went and viewed Ed's operation was how many people they had to just answer phones.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an insane amount of people to answer phones.
Yeah.
And I said to Ed, I said, man, I'm like, explain this to me. Why do you have so many people just to answer your phone? And he said, because there's so much business out there, and we basically, I think he said maybe they started with a couple people and they could never get all of their phones connected to someone. And he said they kept adding someone until until they finally could get all the calls connected. And then once they got the calls connected, he said, and this has been a few months, but he was like, now that we've got it connected, we're going to try to figure out if we can layer an AI in to help take some of the appointments off of the folks in the call center. So those folks can now go out and basically proactively go get business. Okay.
Yep.
So like that was one of the things that kind of took me back. And I thought I was smart, right? So normal deal, right? And so I started telling Ed how I had my phone room set up at our biggest car dealership, right? And I told him, I said, well, we have BDC people too. And I said, and what we do is we take the BDC people and they're in this room at the Chevy store, and they have cameras on all of the advisors. And when someone calls in, they know who they can and can't transfer the call to because they have a camera on the person. And there was basically 6 people, and they rotate, and basically every couple of hours 4 people are snatching all the incoming calls and then connecting them for sure to someone who they can see on a camera is available.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 people are constantly making outbound calls, and then they rotate. And I'm like, and he said, so you're able to get all of your phones? Yes. No. So I thought I was, right. So he kept asking me, and he's like, man, he's like, and what kind of service gross do you do? And how many ROs do you do? And he's like, man, he's like, I don't know how you're able to get all the phones answered, basically doing not very much less business.
Yeah.
And so I kind of went back and I started looking into it, and I learned that we weren't. So we kind of retooled our deal, and we started looking at it. Well, all of a sudden, like even my store with 6 BDC people, our biggest store, they're only connecting. We use Car Wars, right, for tracking our calls. So they're only connecting like 68% of the time. So 32% of the time, the call still isn't getting where it's intended to go.
Yeah.
So kind of took that data, and then we went to all of our stores and we started layering in. Some stores had BDC, some stores didn't. One of the cool things about working at Mac Haik is we run everything kind of independently, right? So if you're the GM of our store, you're the person. You run your store how you want to do it. We have basic rules, like all of our stores have the CRM, the same DMS, that kind of stuff. But when it gets into the rest, we let them use different things if they want to, whatever, right? And so we started going through and we started saying, okay, let's test these different AIs to answer the phones, see if we can shift that number. Now, this may make me look stupid, and if it does, that's okay. But
you can edit it.
We turned at a couple of the stores, we turned on Alpha AI, and a couple we turned on the Car Wars AI Carry. I think at one we turned on, I think it might be called Mia, I think maybe. And then I think maybe at a different store we tried one other. And here's what I've noticed. Okay. Here's what I've noticed. What I've noticed is that the AI is setting a lot of appointments. Okay. And depending on the store, it's setting appointments. That's number one. Number two, the longer the AI is in place, and I'm assuming it's learning, the more appointments it sets. Okay. But our phone call connect rate is no better. Did not change. It has not changed at all. And when I say it hadn't changed at all, I mean, in some stores it's went up 1 or 2%.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the time, we still aren't getting the phones. And when I say answered, I don't mean answered. Remember this. There's a difference in picking up the phone and a person connecting with the end result they're looking for.
Right. Getting. So you're talking about getting a resolution to what the person called for.
Yeah, a resolution, or they ultimately end up talking to the person they desire to speak to.
Mm-hmm.
And the AI is great for just snatching all the people that just need to set an appointment. Great.
Yep.
But when it comes to taking down all the calls of the people who are trying to get a status update, status check, it ain't, I mean, I haven't found one that's handling that 100% correctly. Now, that could be that we're doing something wrong. This is all new to us. So this is new.
Yeah. The status call is such a complicated thing because we all know that for the voice AI to be able to provide a status to a customer, or for an advisor for that matter, they have to rely on the information in that DMS. And if your technician, dispatcher, et cetera, is not constantly updating repair orders, that information isn't correct. So how do you provide that status to a customer without directly talking to either the dispatcher who has the RO or the story on the RO, or the technician that's still working on it?
Yeah, and that's what I'm seeing. So that's kind of you said, where are we at with AI? So that's the first layer of AI that we've started to tinker with. I have not seen a single one of those tools yet increase or improve our amount of phone calls that we connect, or reduce the amount of people that can't get to someone. I haven't seen it yet. And we have one store using Blink AI as well. Haven't seen any improvement in that metric. Now, we've also started using, for our whole company, I would say 80% of the stores, we started using My Karma for part of our communication, and also our video MPVI plan of attack, I guess we'll call it. So we started using that as well. Now that parts went really well.
Okay.
So, and I say well because, we went from a few months ago to having zero video, zero anything. And we went from zero to now, we're already at the 70% as a group mark in just a few months. Haven't had a ton of, we have some techs that are giving us kickback and fight, but we're not getting a ton.
Yeah.
But we have that going. And obviously a lot of that communication's digital. Some of it's certainly AI based.
Yeah.
One thing that I have seen that's really cool is you can use different ones, but you can use different AIs, and you can go in and ask them questions in regards to specific service offerings that you can do on a car. It could be maintenance, it could be cabin air filters, it could be anything, a transmission flush, whatever. And you can actually type in customer rejections, objections, whatever, and you can have the AI build word tracks for your people to answer that question. Like why do we need a cabin air filter, right? And sometimes, especially when you have new advisors, or specifically maybe green advisors in a quick lane type environment, it's really helpful for them to have something to go, and they can go in and just type in that search query for that particular function, and boom,
yeah,
they have something to answer.
Are you just using just a generic ChatGPT account, or are you using a system in the store?
They're all different. So some stores have a business ChatGPT account, and they're building in their stuff. Some are using Gemini. I think that there's some maybe more specifically techie people that are using Claude.
Yeah.
But they're building in these word tracks to answer, and so now it's kind of building a little training manual. It's building a training manual for when someone gets an objection kicked back to them, they can go back and have the answer and the knowledge to learn. And another thing that's neat too is that as they run into new problems and things that they haven't thought of, you can build those inside as well.
That's excellent. Excellent. So I will, I can talk to you after about this, but and now I'm definitely going to say it after. I'm going to have to edit myself out. I can't even remember. Notebook LM. I forgot the name of the tool. Notebook LM is a great tool, and you can actually put in documents in there. So if you wanted to put in your your Chevy maintenance manual and policies that you have, certain policies and things, and they can query inside that, and it'll only pull from those documents. So it won't any kind of hallucination where it makes up, if it doesn't know when a cabin filter should be replaced, it's not going to just give them a number or a mileage. It won't make it up. It'll only pull out of the documents that you pull in there.
Notebook LM.
Yeah, Notebook LM. I'll send you a document after this.
Yeah, that'd be great
for that. And so the issue of status calls, it's one of those things. Like I feel like that was an issue when I was an advisor in 93. That people calling were an issue, and that's where we had 2 advisors on the desk and 7 phone lines that came into the dealership with with just us to answer them all. So how do you think, not how, what do you think it is about keeping that DMS updated that's preventing us from moving on? It's the technician who really has to bear most of that burden.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. The thing that I think is kind of part of the deal and issue. I mean, there's a lot of things inside of a service department that connects, right? How's a ticket come in? Who gets it? How is it dispatched? Is there a dispatcher? What's the dispatcher's experience? How are they told to dispatch it? Is it electronic dispatch? And then the next layer on top of that is there a shop foreman, and is the shop foreman getting the work to the right person, moving things when needed? How are things flowing inside the shop? And then, what is your parts policy inside the store? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to get the part? Even if you have to pay more to get the part immediately today, even if you make less money, our company policy is to get the part. Doesn't matter. Get the part, take care of the customer, even if we have to pay retail, over retail, super retail. Get the part, take care of the customer. That's kind of our policy as a whole, right? But you have that piece, but then once you get past that piece, let's play pretend, right? You have all these different things going on right now, right? So you have all these different recalls and updates, and you have situations where, depending on the manufacturer, they have to send field service engineers, or you're waiting on their digital communication to come back. Try this, do this, whatever. You have parts delays. You have parts you legitimately can't get. You have back orders. You have recalls that don't have answers. I mean, there's a lot of different things that are going on. And then, of course, you have hey, I did the repair. Then I went and quality control drove your car, and maybe I'm performing drive cycles or whatever, and then something else came up, right? And I think that as a service advisor, I think you have 2 issues really going on. Okay. I think there's a healthy amount of conversation that says, as a service advisor, if I don't have anything to tell you, I don't want to call you.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I mean, what is our conversation going to be? Hey, I don't have anything to tell you today.
Just wanted to call you.
And in my opinion, and this is my opinion, I think that you should still call the customer, even if you don't have news, even if it's terrible news. And I think that the way the conversation should go, it should be, hey, let me ask you a question, right? I want to make sure that I'm communicating to you the way you want to be communicated. What's your chosen method of communication? You say whatever it is, and you tell me it's text or whatever, and then I say, okay, sometimes when we get in the process, there could be something that pops up. There could be a program, there could be a parts delay, whatever it is. I'm not always going to have an update for you, and I'm definitely not always going to have an answer. Would you like me to contact you every day, even if I have no news or bad news? Or would you like me to only contact you when I have something meaningful to tell you?
Yeah.
And then let that customer kind of make that decision so you can communicate with them accordingly. And that's a training breakdown. But let me tell you something else I've been thinking about lately. I think that we've potentially entered into a world now, and I could be wrong, where a service advisor, and I'm not saying they're all busy and all this, but when you talk to a lot of guys, like if I asked you right now, how many tickets should a service advisor be taking a day?
I know what the standard answer is. People are going to tell you it's 15, but advisors are handling way more tickets than that.
Okay. So I agree with you, right? So here's my personal thing is I think that in today's world, we're now entering a world where we have to think about service advisors like we think about finance managers and like we think about internet sales, where there is a over diminishing return if they touch and talk to too many people. And we have to start taking on more advisors. Maybe we have to bump up, like maybe the average comp per advisor is too low. I don't know. Maybe we have to change the way we think, right? But my thought process is that we have to keep putting advisors in. Now, don't get me wrong. Maybe you can handle 15.
Right.
Right. But the vast majority of the people can't.
Yes.
And not in touch all their customers every single day and tell them what's up and what's going on. So I think like sales, if we're in sales and I take all my salespeople and I layer them out, right? I've got very few people that can handle 100 leads and have a good close rate.
Right.
Most people, we've learned now, we've got to get them down to 40, 50, 60 leads. We want to get a 15, 18, 20% close rate out of them. They need to have less people to touch and work. Well, the same thing we've learned over the years in finance, right? There was a time when I was a finance manager, we would do 100 deals a piece, sometimes 120. But over time, we've learned we really need someone to touch 50 or 60 car deals if we want them to take their time to work with the customer properly and then, of course, maximize the profitability of the opportunity. I think we're potentially there now with service advisors because there was a time when 20, 30 years ago, right, what was the average labor rate in 2000?
I don't even know what that number was, but
it's low, right?
Under 100.
But now it's exponentially higher.
Yeah.
There is so much money on the table for each and every ticket that we almost have to expand our minds and our horizons and start thinking, well, maybe, and I don't know the number, but maybe the average advisor only needs to touch 6 tickets a day, 7 tickets a day. And could we drive up the customer service, but also maximize our communication, profitability, and retention, which is the most important piece.
Yeah.
If we start reducing how many people, so we take all of our people and we say, how is this person's CSI? And instead of saying, dude, your CSI sucks, and we write you up 3 times and punch you out the door, right? Instead of doing that, maybe say, hey, he's got too many tickets. He's talking to too many people. To get his tickets down until his CSI is right.
Yeah.
And then get those tickets down. And
yeah, I love that view, and the reason that I believe status calls aren't getting done, that a bunch of other things that advisors have been responsible for over the years are not happening the way they should, is because advisors are overwhelmed. And we've piled on admin work after admin work after admin work onto the advisors, right? And we've got all these new systems that are there to help productivity, but they all add key punches and time into the advisor's day to process through a ticket. And in 93, when I was writing service, we were writing 25 to 30 repair orders a day, and it was okay. You were handling that. There weren't a lot of those that carried over because parts were available. There wasn't the glutton of recalls that are out there now that, you end up with all these holdovers. There wasn't all this extra admin work. advisors didn't need to know all the pieces that they needed to warranty a battery, right? They could go to the shop foreman or the manager and just go, is this battery warranty or not? Right now, advisors have to know all that and have to get all the pieces together. That reduces the amount of repair orders that they can effectively handle, not handle, effectively handle.
Effectively handle while maximizing the customer service,
Yes.
maximizing the profitability, maximizing the communication, and
Mm-hmm.
maximizing the relationship, which will ultimately maximize our retention.
Exactly. That's the two big R's, right? Is that relationship and retention. And with that, just like we started with the mobile service discussion and it building fleet business, the when you have advisors that can actually build relationships with customers, you have a store that I can almost guarantee you has a correlation of higher retention at that store.
100%. And that's kind of what I was getting at when we first started off. You mentioned obviously mobile service, and I told you I went there to learn about mobile service. And in reality, I got my eyes open to a whole other set of expectations where I was like, man, you know, maybe I should go look at my phones. And then when I went and looked at my phones, I got my feelings hurt. And then I said, okay, maybe I should add an AI in to help them with the phones. I did,
Yeah.
but it didn't help anything. And then I thought, okay, if that's the case, maybe we need to start adding in, this the mobile video, and let's take our customer service to a higher notch, and we add
Mhm.
that in. And
Yep.
all of that's great. And when you take our when you take our stores as a group
Yep.
and you add up all the hours that they do and all the ROs that they do year over year, they go up every month, every single month. And sometimes it's 5, 6%, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 3, but they always go up. And there's a danger, okay? And the danger is a lot of guys right now are, they get fixated on service departments. They get fixated on the dollars, right? And dollars is dangerous.
Mhm.
It's dangerous because the labor rates have exploded off
Yes.
the Richter scale. So if you're just looking at your sales and your gross dollars,
Mhm.
it's going to go up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a no-brainer.
Right.
But are you talking to more people? Are you turning more hours? How are things flowing through your shop and kind of getting in there? And then that raises another question, right? I want you to think about this, right? If your service manager's been with you for a long time, and I'm not advocating to not pay service managers, okay? That's never been said, okay? I'm just making a point that if your service manager's been with you for a while and they get paid X% of gross or X% of the bottom line,
Yeah.
your labor rates went up 40%,
Yeah.
they've effectively got a 20, 30, 40% raise.
Yep.
And this sounds insulting, but I don't mean it insulting.
Mhm.
What did they do to create it?
Yeah. Yep.
Nothing.
Right. It
Nothing.
was market conditions. It
So
was.
let's talk about, so during COVID we had a chip shortage. We sold cars for MSRP. What did our managers do to create that? Nothing. Nothing. Right? Now it's came all the way back down. What did our managers do to cause that?
Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing. The market is the market, right?
Mhm.
So my point in saying that is maybe we've let that rise kind of come up, and our comp has kind of rose equivalently with it of a higher dollar percentage, but maybe those dollars aren't allocated correctly or in the right place anymore.
Mhm.
Maybe we should be allocating more dollars to advisors so they can take less tickets but make similar money. Maybe we need to allocate those dollars to maybe more different support personnel if you have BDCs, or maybe you have a dispatcher, but maybe you need two of them. Um, you know, maybe you have a foreman, but maybe you need two of them. Maybe you need three of them. Maybe they only need so many tickets and techs
Right.
per one. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole different thing. But what I think needs to happen, and this is just my ultimate opinion, is I think we potentially need to reimagine how that part of our business is done, because I'm just one guy, but I set out on a mission to go figure out how we could grow our mobile service business. And what I learned in the process is that we have holes all over our business. But if you looked at our dealerships from afar, you would think we're crushing it. I thought we were crushing it. I thought we were awesome. And I went out there and was like, oh man, we're not awesome. We have a long way to go. And I think that there's a whole nother world and room, and to bring it back to the mobile service part and piece is that I think that we can use mobile service also to reduce the amount of tickets per advisor by, instead of fighting. What is the main reason people tell you they don't want to do mobile service? Dealerships.
Because it's going to take away their staff.
Is that the main thing you hear? Because it's not the main thing I hear.
Yeah, I probably didn't answer that correctly. The main thing I hear is that the I'll give 2 points. One is that the initial investment is too high. That they don't want to make that initial investment. And the second is that they feel like it's a big investment into oil changes and recalls.
Yeah. And so I think that to build on that, what I hear the most when people are just like, I'm not interested or I don't want to do it, is I can't get it to pencil. I hear that all the time.
Yep.
I can't get it to pencil. I can't get it to pencil. I can't get it to pencil. But what if you could, instead of mobile service being something that you have to do because you're a Ford store and the manufacturer has a gun to your head, right? But what if you just offered it to every human, and you could get as many of those ROs virtually handled off the drive, reduce the amount of ROs that your service advisors are touching and taking, and maybe not wasting that bay. Am I going to make a lot of money doing oil changes in people's driveway? Hell no. But let me ask you a different question. Do I make any money doing oil changes in my own shop?
No.
No.
And you've taken that bay up from doing more profitable work, and you've probably created more phone calls that can't get answered coming into your store.
Yes, 100%. More phone calls that can't get answered. And then also too, if we send people out to do the mobile work, and we can do not only a video MPVI, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a technician and I'm at your house, we can do an interactive video MPI. We can do it together.
Yep.
Come here real quick. It'll take a minute and 20 seconds. Let's look at your car together. And then we walk around and we do your car together. And let's just pretend you need things that I can't do in your driveway, or I find some stuff or recall or whatever, right?
Yep.
Now I can book you an appointment. And then I think that's another opportunity for a dealership as well. Is I think that if we're a dealership, we have to start thinking like Apple, and we have to start thinking like Sport Clips. You go to Sport Clips or an Apple store and you ain't got an appointment, dude, pack a lunch.
You're not coming in.
You're not coming in. Pack a lunch. Yeah. It's going to suck. It's going to be a terrible experience, right? I think we have to get to a point where we're like that, where we have our day so planned, so maximized, so understood. You want to talk about AI? Let's figure that out.
Yeah.
Where we can maximize how many appointments we can take a day. We'll call them preferred check-ins instead of appointments, so it's not as insulting, right? But we get to a point where we should come in every day and we should know exactly what's going to happen, and we should never be surprised.
Yeah. That would be amazing. And look, we've been really good at as an industry of destroying the appointment system. We have trained the customers to just come in because they had appointments and they come in and their car didn't get done, or they had an appointment and then you come in and you fed them the line of, oh, that was your appointment to talk with me, the advisor, not to get into the shop, right? Like, you made an appointment, a reservation at a restaurant, and then you went there for your 7:00 reservation, and they said, oh, that's just to talk to the maitre d' over there. That's not to actually sit at your table. It'll be another hour and a half before your table's ready. You're not staying there.
What kind of restaurant do you go to? What kind of restaurant do you go to where you don't need an appointment? Sorry, you don't need a reservation. You just walk in. What kind?
Fast food.
The kind you wait at.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
If you go to a high-end place and I don't care if you're selling Mercedes or Kias or Chevys or Fords or Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram or Land Rovers or Porsches. It doesn't matter what you're selling.
Mm-hmm.
All service work in today's world is expensive.
Yes.
Parts are expensive.
Yep.
So we have to bridge the gap to become a luxury experience. And if we don't, we're never going to be viewed as one. And this is a lesson I tell all my guys all the time, right? We all know the reasons customers don't want to come to franchise stores. We know why we lose customers, right? They think we're more expensive. Are we more expensive? No, we're not more expensive. We're the same price as the independent shops are. We're not more expensive. Okay. They also think that we don't communicate well. Do we communicate well? No, we don't. So that's a valid problem. They also think we're slow. Are we slow? Yes.
Yes.
That's a valid problem. But let me tell you the number one reason other than price that customers don't come to car dealerships. They don't come to us because we're less convenient.
Yep.
Are we less convenient?
Most times, yes.
Why?
Sometimes it's that perception sometimes it's just the experience when they come in.
Agree. But let's just think about it this way, right? It doesn't matter where your car dealership is. Where do you live right now? Where do you live? Okay, so you go to the nearest car dealership, right? Whatever dealership it is. Let's call it Massachusetts Ford. If you put a 10-mile radius around Massachusetts Ford in your area, how many of that exact dealership are there?
A lot.
No, that exact dealership.
Oh, that exact dealership. There's one.
Just one.
Yeah.
Now, inside that same 10-mile radius, how many places could they go get service?
It's an infinite number.
An infinite number, right?
Yep.
So if we're not going to be premium and we're just going to be a dime a dozen, we can't get our feelings hurt when people go to Walmart to get an oil change.
Right.
Because we didn't do any better. So if we aren't going to be less expensive, which we're not, right? We're not going to be less expensive and we're definitely not more convenient. What do we have to be?
Premium.
Better.
Yeah.
We have to be premium. We have to be luxury. We have to be better.
Yeah.
And that's the gap that we have to bridge in our industry to figure out how to close that retention gap and keep more of our customers instead of losing them when they get to that 3-year mark.
And I love that reframe. And I would love to see us get to that point. Obviously we've got some baby steps to take before we become the premium choice. And a bunch of those things we talked about today. We've got to get better about appointments, better about communicating with customers. We need to do some things better to be considered that premium brand.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So now, sorry, that was a total tangent, but I told you everything I've been thinking about lately.
I love it. It's great. Josh, we've been talking for almost an hour, if you can believe that, about some final thoughts for everybody out there watching.
Final thoughts. I'm going to take this from a variable guy's perspective. Okay. And my final thoughts would be, I had my eyes opened the more that I started to pay attention to our fixed operations, specifically after I went to Bozard Ford and I met Ed, right? So my closing thoughts and my closing statement is if you're in a spot like mine or you're a GM, doesn't matter what it is, get back to your fixed operation. Stop thinking it's as different as it is. It's not. And you're going to find a wealth of opportunity that you have probably been neglecting.
That is a great place to end. I love that. Josh, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody out there, we'll see you next time.